Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Monday's Lunch and Learn. My name is Will, and I'm here to help you guys today. And Krushi, all right, what you got for us today?
Hey, I'm facing difficulty in applying in logic. So I just wanted to discuss with you once, if you have any better ideas.
Okay, what are you doing? What's the logic that you have?
So actually, I have created a sample group for you to understand. So I have it in Excel. So if you can make me a panelist, so generally it is just if the
Sure. Yeah, let me make you a panelist, and then you can share your screen.
uh okay.
Stop my share, and then when Krushi comes in, yeah, go ahead and share whenever you're ready, Krushi.
Okay. So this is the logic. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, I can.
So suppose these are the repeating codes. A
Mm-hmm.
is repeating 2 times and B is
Okay.
repeating once. So A has its own claim number. So whenever a code is repeating, the first one will be flagged as evidence claim number. So you can see here, evidence claim number and claim line number with respect to this
Okay.
second. And this third, for the third, this for this also the evidence claim number and claim line number will be the same,
Okay.
and the number and claim line number will be its own, like this.
Okay.
The opportunity amount will be this.
Okay.
So I'm just like little confused while applying it in the flow.
Well, these are lines in an Excel file, or like where are these lines coming from?
So these are just like they are the parameters in the data we have. So if you
Mm-hmm.
want, we have like the original one. If you want, I can open that.
I'm not
But
sure.
I
I
guess
don't
this
know
would
what
be
the original
better.
one is.
I guess this would be better for you to understand. So this is just the one I want to apply. That this should get flagged with no, sorry, this A should get flagged with the evidence claim line of this.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Claim number and claim line number should be of its own, and
Okay.
the amount should be also with should be of its own.
Okay. Um, what is it? What's the pattern that you're trying to build right now? Do you have a flow where you're trying to do this at?
Yes, so I thought of one logic. I'll just connect to the VPN. Just give me a second.
So you're fetching data from a database, right?
Yes.
And then that data comes back with a claim number, line number, and amount.
Yes.
And you need to do you need to group them by the code or by the claim number? Is that the question? Got to group them?
One by one.
Mm-hmm. We have a step called for each in group that allows you to specify what it'll give you a list in. You can feed it a list, and then you specify what property to group by. And so it'll give you a sub list out, which is grouped by the property. So you could feed in a list and say group by claim number or code, I guess, depending, whichever is more appropriate. And then you would get a list out, which would be all of the A codes or all of the number one claim numbers together. Have you explored or looked at using that particular step yet?
No, Bill, it's not like that. So in particular particular group, we can get any number of, so suppose this is for member A. So I have to look for member A only. So this should
Mhm.
get flagged with this, like only for this particular group and not for the member B. So it's like that. So I cannot group all them by A, B.
Mhm. Well, okay. I mean, how are you fetching your data?
You want to see the flow? Let me open that.
Chris asked a question about response. Chris, there should be an option called like raw JSON or raw output that should allow you to control, just respond with just the raw JSON, like the object and not the actual outcome path name, which is what done is normally. I'll try to get to you in a sec, but just looking at that right now, I probably look at raw output, raw JSON, one of those other view integration detail selections to see if that helps there. Okay, so you're looping through something.
Okay, so this is the
Yeah.
group data and I'm fetching one group here. So this will keep on repeating. It will keep on fetching one by one.
Okay. And so what are you trying to string match on? That
So like we have particular CPD force, only the CPD four panel codes will repeat themselves.
okay.
This 6, 7, yeah. So I was matching them, and then so suppose I match them and I store them in a temporary variable, and then I keep looking for the same. So it will take like 4, 5, like 7, around 7 item, right, for each step. So that will be a lot. We need to process data in 10 minutes, like in millions. So I
Well,
was
where do the claim numbers come from? Where does that data come from your Excel sheet?
so we have the tables in Postgres, so it's coming from here.
Hmm.
So I'll get a group from here.
So at that point, for your bottom screenshot, you have both of the A's that you need coming out of that step.
Yeah, suppose the A, B, and C, these are the panel codes. This 80048 and this like 0069. So like that.
I don't understand the relationship to those numbers versus your panel codes.
Okay, so A, B, and C, suppose they are the panel codes.
Okay. Well, after your execute step, if you used a for each in group with a particular panel code, right, you would have all of the panel code all of the panel codes, all of the data returned from your query would be grouped by panel code. So you would have all of the 80048s together. And then you could loop that list and do something with it. And then go back into the group step, at which point then you could get 80069 out.
Yeah, you're right. But well, I just have one like problem. I can see that. So I need to have, as I showed in the Excel sheet, I need to have the claim number. I need to store the claim number and the claim line of the first repeating item. So how can I
Okay.
do that in that for group step?
You could just you get them back out and you need to order them by claim number, is what you're saying? Or line number?
So there
Or
they can
a
be
claim
anything.
number? You
So
just
it's
you
not.
want to group them. You want to make sure they're ordered by line number or claim number?
No, not order by. So this is so this can be anything, right? Here it can be 19 or 20, so that's
Mm-hmm.
not a problem. So Yeah, I guess order by will still do. But even if I order by, how can I store the first one? And
You could just use you could build a list. Like you're gonna create like a flow structure, create like a temporary data type, like a flow structure that has claim number, line number, and amount. And then as you loop through this list, you can use an add item to list step to add the first one into a list if you need to save off all of the first ones. So like imagine you run your query, you pass the results of your query into a for each in group step, and you group by the claim, you group by the code, right? And then you loop through each group. You loop through the response from that for each in group step with a for each step. You could take on the first iteration only, you could pass the item to an add item to list step if you needed to save it off into a flow structure.
Okay.
Does that make? I mean, here, why don't I share my screen and I can show you what I'm talking about here.
Sure.
Maybe I might try to make. All right, so go ahead and stop your share for me. And I'm going to move you back to an attendee here and get myself set up to show. So change role to attendee and share my screen. Okay, and can we see my screen again? Anybody that's on?
Yeah, we can see it.
All right, so I'm gonna just, here we go. Come on, what's happening? Build a flow here. And let's assume I'm gonna put a fetch entity step here and just fetch some folders. So here's some folders, and then I'm gonna search for group and find my for each in group step, for each in group. So my results go into here. I give it my type. And then here it's going to let me group by field, and I'm gonna just group by entity folder ID and pass in my collection. And then what I could do is something like this. If I need to get the first one, I could do like for each, and I could pass in my each grouping, which is what the output of my group for each step is. And possibly if I needed to, I could use an add item to list step. I could do like, if I only want to do it on the very first path, I might have to do something like this. So number equals add item to list step, otherwise go do something. And let's just say end here. So if we get this fully configured, I might say check if the item index returned from the for each step equals 0. And it only equals 0 on the first path. And here, what I would do is I'm just gonna use a folder here as an example, but you would create a flow structure. And then you could do build data here. And let's just do like name. Just do these 4 options just to make it easy. I could then map my items here and go to an add item to list step so that, oh, this isn't right. My done path goes back to my for each in group step. So run your query, group by your codes, loop through each code list here, take the first item and add it to something, otherwise do whatever you need to do. And then when you're done with that, go back to get the next group of codes. I think I need to unmute you again to let you talk there. Something like that is what I think you're asking about here, Krushi.
Yes, you're right. And what the placeholder step will do will?
Oh, that's just, I don't know what you're doing. I'm here, you said on the first one, you need to add it to a list, right? So this step checks to see if we're at item index 0. And if we are, it adds an item to a list. Now, it might actually do something like this. You might have be like more of a conditional type check where it, man, those aren't doing us any favors, are they? That's somewhat readable.
And so like if I have multiple groups in this for each, so will it group by each of the code?
Yeah, that's what this step does. Like here, you field to group by. If you group by the code field on your that comes back from your data type from your query, you will get all of the codes together. So like if you have like 6 types of distinct codes, you'll loop through this step 6 times. But outside of you see, unlike a normal for each step where a list comes in, right, and then a single item comes out, and a for each for group, a list comes in, and a subset or a smaller list comes out, grouped by the field that you specify.
Okay. So if I want to store, like suppose there are like 2-3 groups, each of them repeating CPT4 are repeating for like 3-4 times. I want to have the first differentiated between, like differentiated from them, the rest of 2. If there are 3, I want first to be different, which will be coming of the rest of 2. Something like that. Yeah. So will this
Well,
take care of that too?
yeah, I mean, this always loops this type of design, a for each step to an index check. Like, is the index 0? This pattern allows you to deal with the first item returned in a unique way. Remember, this is whatever you're doing. I don't know what you're doing in your flow, but you're doing your main processing here. But you could you can save off the first item, if you need to add it to a list in some way. So the question is, what do you do with that list of first items once you have it sort of compiled? I don't know well enough what to say there, but I think generally speaking, likely this is the design, or this is a design that could help do what you're asking, I think.
Yes, this would help me for sure. Thank you, Will.
Okay. All right, you're welcome. So let us know if you get, let me know if you get, get stuck on that.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Oh, you're welcome. Sorry, I cut you off a little over there. I'm sorry about that. Really quick, Chris, any questions about my response to you, sir?
No, I got an example on my end, so I think that you got me going in the right direction there.
And just so everyone else was understanding what I was saying, if we look at an API service here, and we look at if we look at view integration details, now yours might look very different from mine. Under additional options, we have data formats here: JSON, XML, raw, or raw JSON and raw XML. The primary difference being we don't include some of our, in these two, we don't include some of our path data in the actual XML response. So if you're integrating a decisions flow with someone else and they're complaining about the manner in which we send data back, you can control the format of your objects based on the objects that you are actually using in your flow, and possibly need to control some of the other JSON we wrap around your object using these settings.
Is that output type, is that so is this release 8?
This is, yeah.
Okay.
No,
so
this is 7.10, but this is the same view as in 8 as well, yeah.
Right. Yeah, in 6, it's wasn't as apparent to me, the difference between the raw and the non-raw. Is the output type, is that something that can move to the HTTP header?
I don't think so. I don't think we can support output. I don't think we actually look at the output type in the header at all. I don't know with certainty though.
All right, I'll play with it, but I think
Maybe we do. Like, I don't think raw JSON means anything to anyone else besides us, for example. But I could be wrong about that.
Right. I mean, I don't. I know there are a few things that do work in the header.
Hmm.
I think but I'm not. I was just a little unclear about if that actually works in the header or not.
Yeah,
think
I
I've had
would,
mixed-
I wouldn't, I
uh,
wouldn't be, wouldn't be shocked to find out it does. But I've never tried it, and I'm not sure it's actually supported, but it very well might.
All right, I'll play with that. Thanks.
You bet, man. Happy to help. All right, Mr. Humphrey. Looking for information about recursion limit. How does it work? What does it mean? Best practices to configure if we know we will have a flow that loops many times. Any access to the current count if we want to provide a warning. Okay, lots here. Let's see here. I need to put this in the chat. Oh, and I have a question from Murray in the chat. Okay, recursion limit. So let's just use this flow. So the question is best practices for, oh, you can actually turn it off. That might be relatively new. I don't think I've seen that before. The question is, we have a recursion limited decisions to prevent a certain number of flow step executions from occurring. And we set that at 20,000 by default. So to your first question, how does it work? It's actually just counting the actual individual step executions that are hit, which is why you can get into one of the ways you can actually cause a Stack Overflow is if you have a flow that calls itself, because that doesn't count as like flow step recursion. Either way, it's number of steps hit. We're just keeping a rolling counter of the number of steps hit during a flow's execution. And if that number exceeds the value of the recursion limit, we will throw an uncatchable exception that breaks the execution of the flow. So you can set this up to max int 32, or I've never actually clicked on this drop-down list, possibly set it off if you don't want to have any recursion policy at all. I'd probably leave it alone and set it up to, if you're unsure of the amount of loops that you might need, but you expect it to be a lot, you could set it as high as max int 32. And there's really no downside to setting it super high. This is mostly to prevent you from inadvertently doing a bad design. So it's kind of like a design time thing. As soon as you get into a design where you know you need to loop a lot, it's not very common. You have to come here and make a change to this admittedly kind of arbitrary recursion limit value. But you can't get access to it in the current flow in any way that I'm aware of. Like if you wanted to like say, okay, we don't want to set it very high, and we think it might grow over time. And so if it hits 80% of the recursion limit, like, go to a log step or do some send email step or something like that, we don't give you access. The flow engine doesn't have access to the current recursion counter in any way that I'm aware of, Jeff, if that's kind of the question that you're asking there.
Okay. Yeah. So I guess the use case that I was wanting to learn more about was the, so we run into this maybe every few months in our production environment. Like, we use decision sort of as our scheduling engine. And every once in a while, one of our customers will send us like an unnaturally oversized, batch of something to process. And, something we thought would never hit the recursion limit now over time has grown and it's hitting it. But a lot of times it kind of presents itself as, something didn't get processed, but then we'll look and the only evidence we see of it is that it logs an entry in the logs.
Yeah.
So I guess we were trying to look for a more proactive way to figure out or set things up so we could see when something is getting used more or approaching that 20,000 default limit. So,
I mean, there's no danger if you know this is a looping flow, just setting it higher. Right? I mean, you're not incurring any risk that way. Like, this is gonna run and it needs to loop a lot. You have confidence that the design that you've built is like valid and tested. It's just a question of how many loops, not if it's doing something inappropriate. So, I mean, there's really no danger to setting it as high as it can go, which is max in 32, or possibly, again, I've never actually used this, and maybe just turning it off and saying, we're not even going to do recursion checks here at all. I don't think you're exposing yourself to any risk there by doing that. I mean, admittedly, we should probably, when you make this more, I don't know, transparent or something, like maybe it's based on a flow behavior, right? Or something like that. But I would just do one of those two things. And then that, I imagine max in 32 gives you enough iterations. That's a pretty big number.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thanks, Will.
Yeah, you bet. All right, answer live, boom. And then Murray, you got a question here. I'm considering a tab form for an upcoming project. By default version 6, the first tab is a grid, but the subsequent tabs don't seem to be one, nor can I figure out easily how to make them grids. You should just be able to drop a grid layout inside of the tab container, like section. Just like drag and drop over. Let's see here. There should be no behavior difference here that I'm aware of between this version I'm running and what you have.
Okay.
So if we bring over tab container, we have, and then you should be able to just drop grids into each, and then have independent grids on each one. Maybe we're defaulting a grid layout and you don't want a grid layout. If that's the case and you can't control that, probably the easiest thing would be to just come in, like say the default one in 6 is a grid, you could just do 1 star, 1 star, and you effectively can then, put a canvas or anything else that you might want inside of it. And it is no longer a grid. I mean, it is a grid, but it has no sort of user interaction or it doesn't change anything about the user experience.
So, okay, I know it's going to look different in 6, so I'll search around and see what I could, because all I saw was drop downs. I did not see anything that that made me think I could drag and drop it.
Yeah, you can move these grids around and like nest. It's really just the same thing as like nesting a grid inside of another grid. It's the same concept for tabs. So like you could do very complex, nesting within nesting type stuff here if you need to.
Okay, I will dig
on
around
each
and
individual
see
tab section.
where the drag and drop is.
Yeah, it should be on yours. It'll be on the right hand side under layout still. And you can just you can just drag the grid over. It just doesn't have the icon, but it's the same exact functionality once you drag it over from the form step toolbox or form control toolbox.
That's what I needed. Thank you.
You bet. Happy to help. Okay. Anybody else have any questions today? You can ask in the chat, ask in the Q&A section, or just use raise hand and we can call on you. Hey, go ahead. I'm going to fail this pronunciation. Bojan? Sorry.
Hi.
What can we do for you today? What questions you got?
Yeah, I have a question about data repeater. So I'm trying to pass along some label questions, and I have an issue where I have multiple types of answers. Like one question can have a radio button, the other question can have a number box.
Okay.
The third one a text box, and so on.
Yeah. Yep. Okay.
So basically, what would be the best approach for this? Because I'm trying with some truth tables and for eaches, but I'm pretty much lost in all that.
Yeah.
Loop.
Yeah, this is, okay, so I'm gonna direct you, I'm gonna here, this is, you don't wanna, you need to be thinking about a mixed type repeater. I'm gonna put this in the chat here for you. And I forgot to, so if you look at that link, you see on my screen right now, mixed type repeater. I think, can I make this, let's look at our GIF here. So if you look at this example on the GIF here, they're going to add an element for a text box, and they're going to add this. It's kind of a silly example, but they're going to add a drop-down list as the next item here. This is probably similar to what you're after. You want like a dynamic questionnaire type design.
Well, yeah, instead of I will not probably have buttons to add or remove.
Correct. This is just part
yeah.
of the example. This isn't necessary.
Okay.
But the thing you need to look at is a mixed type repeater. That's, this doc is where you need to start off. It's a different type. If you look at like, if you create form and come down to data repeater. Maybe it's a user control. Okay, great. Where is it at? Normal form. Where's my mixed type repeater at? Anybody that it works at decisions that's on this call want to help me? Change the type from regular to mixed type.
I think I saw it on the previous screen, like mixed
Really?
type repeater. Yeah, down on the left.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So we've hidden it from the create dialog. That's wonderful. So if that were the case, I could drag one over. So here, if I go to user controls, existing user controls, mixed type repeater versus, actually, oh, maybe you don't create these at all. Maybe I'm confused. I haven't used one of these in a long time. Then you clicked and add a data repeater. Create new. Yeah, you create individual user controls, right? Okay, either way, yeah. This doc, now this is a pretty complicated topic and I would fumble my way through this. So what I would say is this is where you want to start in terms of trying to figure out how to do this. And if you see here, there is an example lab article where you can download a working one and then play around with it. I'd use that. I won't be able to get one of these working today on the call together. There's too much setup for this. But this is what you're after here. And then what you can do is build up these user interfaces where you can have a form load with different controls or different repeater items for different question types. And you don't have to click buttons. Like you could have the form auto load with those different things. Basically what happens is the type of user control, the user control type, you build like a user control for a drop-down list, you build a user control for a text box, you build a user control for a radio button, and then you bind that to a particular data type. And then the order of the data type, then whatever data option, the data type of that object in that list has the user interface renders that appropriate control there. So you say, this is a text box question, or this is a radio button question. And then the decisions goes and finds the right control and puts them in the right order for you as your user loads the form. Our example just uses buttons to show you how to, like an example of adding them, but there's no requirement that it be manual in the same way that this example is. This is just a demonstration.
So basically there is a way to dynamically
100%.
Mm. Mhm. Okay, I mean, I'll go through the documentation.
Like you could imagine that you have like you have a different type of, you have a questionnaire, right? And you
Mhm.
one questionnaire and you launch a questionnaire A or questionnaire B, and then that loads a form, and then all of the different all of the different options on each form are completely different, and it's based on the questionnaire itself, it's not something the user is specifying.
Okay, I mean, I think I understand, but I'll need to check the documentation a bit.
Yep. Yeah, and then I would definitely download the example here from the example
Mhm.
lab, and import it, and then should allow you to play around with it and see how a working one works. Because this can get very tricky really quickly. It's not something that we do very gracefully. So, if you get stuck, like if you get stuck, reach out to your customer success manager, and we can get someone who's good at these to join a call with you and help out.
Okay, I mean, you mean just to write a ticket or for support or
Sure.
okay. Yeah, I mean, I'll definitely write a ticket if I'm not able, because yeah, it's like trying with some true tables and everything, so I got pretty lost with everything. So
Yeah, there's a lot here for sure.
yeah, especially because I mean, there's like potentially 50 or more questions, and
Yeah. Well, you have to build a control for each question type, right? So you have to design those ahead of time. There's nothing that does it automatically for you.
Mhm.
But you can get clever in terms of how you save the data off so that you could turn it into in fact, I think so you could turn it into something that's easy for users to construct once you have it all built. So this is a big topic.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Okay. Anybody else got anything for us today? Okay. All right. Thanks, everybody. That's everything. If that is everything, we'll go ahead and call it a day. I'll be back here tomorrow, and then we have some other people for Wednesday and Thursday this week. Appreciate the questions today. All right. Have a great afternoon or great evening, whichever it might be. I actually end the meeting. Can I just end it? End webinar for all. Got it.